Yeah, that's all good.
All right. All right, guys. Technical difficulties are over for the moment. I have to go and finish what I'm doing with the GunTube servers real quick. So we're just going to have the pre-chat right now. And since John isn't doing his chat tonight because it's his wife's birthday and they're going to they're going out tonight. So they're not going to be around. So we can go as late as we want and we can start as late as we want. So there we go, because we got that extra space right now. But in the meantime, hey guys, how you doing? I see you guys out there. I see Snake Doctor. I see Jason Stewart, Carolina EDC reviews. Travis P11's pulling double duty. We got Jason Stewart. We got D1062, Scott P79, and anybody else that's out there. Go ahead. If you don't say anything, we don't know you're out there. So go ahead, comment out there on the live chat. Chat with the people out there on the live chat. They're good people. I love those guys. Those guys are awesome. We have some unsavory folk out there too, but they always give us a good laugh. They give us a good meme video or image. They're good guys. They're actually really good people. So don't think they're bad. They're good people. They may be named different, but they're good people. So with that, that's the intro you're getting right now until I fix GunTube. I'm still having some problems with some of the servers with GunTube. The software pushed an update, and I'm in the middle of redoing every server by hand. So as soon as I get done typing, a shitstorm, we can start the chat and start talking about important topics going on. But until then, let me finish this, okay? So Travis. Start a conversation, start talking about something. I don't care what it is, just as long as it's teacherish.
Well, I think we really should discuss, kind of the pros and cons of getting into reloading, because I'm just kidding.
Okay, but that anything but that.
Anything.
I don't want
okay, here's what we do.
All
right, so let's let everybody in the panel introduce themselves while Nice Try get things straightened out here. And Duke Liberty, we'll start off with you. What's going on, homie?
Hey man, thanks for the invite, Night Strike. Evening, gentlemen. Nice to be on here with this great panel. Glad to be here. Excited for the night. I got some questions here, so hopefully I can get them answered from some great minds.
All right, man. We're gonna see what we can do for you. So glad you can be here, man. Good to have you. All right, and also joining us, we got a little New York Outcast. So New York Outcast, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Doing good. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Cool. And for those of you that don't know who I am Travis P11, Travis P11. Got some firearms content over here on YouTube. I also do coffee and technology reviews, believe it or not, of like computers and stuff like that. I was going to make a quick announcement. Caliber Corner, you guys probably already heard this last night. We're going to go to Saturday mornings again, 8 a.m. Central Time. Starting this Saturday, we are already going to have another episode. We just had an episode last night. We used to be on Monday nights, but the way things are looking, the way things are going, I think Saturday mornings are going to work better for me, which is what we did for years. And so that's what we're going to go back to. So 8 a.m. Central. So if you guys are just getting up, you're just on the road, you're just heading out, you can listen to the show live if you want. Send us your questions at, the calibercorner@gmail.com, if I'm not mistaken, and we'll try to answer them for you. So, I think we'll go ahead and get started. So Duke, you want to fire up those questions while Nice Strike is getting things sorted out, or you want us to work on that for you? What do you got, bud?
Yes, sir. First question I've got is I've got a new firearm. I've got a 686 4-inch barrel, Smith & Wesson. I've noticed that when I load it with 38 special, the rounds shake inside the cylinder. And I've never owned a wheel gun, and I wanted to know if that's normal.
Ooh, that's an interesting question, man.
Are you 38 special and 357, right?
That's correct. Yeah, it's a 686. I know it can take 30 special, but there is a lot of shake in those rounds, and it doesn't seem like there should be.
Have you fired it?
No.
Okay. Well, I hate to say this, but take it to the range and fire it. Fire it once. Fire one shot. I mean, if you're worried about ruining the gun or anything, fire like one blank. Get some blanks and just fire some blanks. That way you don't kill yourself.
I just got it this week in a trade, and I have
because
I couldn't even find 357 Magnum ammo.
It sounds like it's the cylinder might be out of spec. It might not be. It may just be that it's just a little loose, and that's how it's going to be. But anyways, let me get back to what I was doing. So, okay. Travis, answer the man.
Man, that's God, and unfortunately, revolvers are not my strong suit here. I guess we maybe have to look at. Is the case diameter going to be the same between 38 Special and 357 Magnum or not? I mean, is there just a natural small difference between the two?
And I can't even answer that because I don't even have.
It almost seems like a dangerous situation if you got that space between your cases. Hey, you guys that are out there watching this, those of you that might be out there watching in the chat, you want to throw in some stuff out there and see what you guys think? I mean, so Jason Stewart says it's normal.
Okay.
Gizzard Gary says they're going to jiggle a little bit. Once it's dirty, it won't be so loose. The cases are the same size, right? Yeah. Get a Glock.
I just don't think it sounds like it just hasn't been. It's either been shot a bit, or if it's new and it looks like it's never been fired, it may just need a breaking in period.
I find it. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but I kind of find it hard to believe that you could wear out the cylinder. I mean, not that it couldn't happen, but that's like a solid chunk of steel or aluminum or whatever they make stuff out of. I couldn't imagine that, or iron. It'd be hard to think that. Right. And it could. I don't think it could just also be the ammo itself, but like the actual company that loads it. I would, if people are saying it's okay, I would probably go and say you're going to be fine.
What ammo are you trying to use?
I've got Hornady.
Get some Remington. Try some Remington.
Okay, we're still pretty picked through here in Michigan.
I know you may have to order it online, but just try a box of Remington and see if Remington does it, because it may just be that the ammo, the Hornady ammo is maybe just a hair out of spec. It's still, you can still fire it; it'll be fine. But it sounds like the brass might be just a small hair out of spec.
So
out of spec.
Here's what I found in the Smith & Wesson forum, and this is just, take it however you want, but this is by a highly rated member on the Smith & Wesson forum.com. Somebody said, when loaded, this is my model 686, 4-inch model. Is it normal for bullets to rattle in the cylinder? And it says, yes, there's a tiny bit of tolerance between the cartridges or the chambers, or else you'd never be able to load the gun. When the primer's lit, the expanding gas will cause the brass to swell and seal the breech. Okay, there you go. Allowing most of the pressure to push the bullet out of the case through the cylinder. I would say if you've got a loose cylinder, then you've got some issues, but I would think that you're going to be okay there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
What you could also do is you could get, I think they got them. You could try using moon clips too.
Okay.
You get a set of moon clips that'll work with 38 Special, and that'll help you speed load really. But them being in the moon clip, it might hold them all into place.
Yeah, this is all new to me. I've never owned a revolver before, and pretty excited about it. But I loaded it and I thought, oh, this doesn't sound right. I got to talk to somebody who knows a little bit more than I do.
Gary did say, and this would make sense, it's going to be forward, backward jiggle, not side to side. It's a matter of clearance in the back. Yeah, because you'd think the back rim would hold the bullets in place when you've got them in the cylinder. And you've got that spring pulling on the back of the cylinder, that little cap that keeps them in place. I think you're going to be okay, man.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah. What else you got?
Okay, second question. I've got a demilled British Sten gun from World War II. I want to sell it, but I am concerned that it's not demilled correctly. I have tried to seek out what is a demilled weapon via the ATF, and I can't get a clear definition of it really being demilled or not.
Okay, I got an easy answer to this. Take it to a gunsmith.
I did, and he couldn't give me an answer.
Oh man!
He said,
no.
ATF.
Take it to a competent gunsmith.
This was a very competent gunsmith. This was a guy who. Okay, what he told me that it was fine, but to call the ATF, and what I don't want to do, because if you don't demill it correctly, you're selling a you're selling a machine gun, and then I don't want that hassle.
Now normally we say don't contact the ATF about things because we don't want to give them ideas about stupid questions we have that have obvious answers. But in something like your situation, you know, where you want to know what the legal definition is of demilled, I would think you'd be safe to email them. And normally I say it's not the kind of, I would never encourage anybody to contact the ATF about anything. But for something like that, where you're simply talking about a gun that's being taken out of commission, you know, I don't think that'd be an issue. I think on some of the guns that I've seen for sale online that are demilled, like you say, they're not firing. Usually the barrel's been filled, so it can't possibly be fired again. It's been filled with something, like I don't know if they put liquid metal in it or something or another and plug it so you can never use it, which basically
the barrel's been plugged, but every definition I've seen is that the receiver has to be cut. And that's what they're most concerned about. And the receiver is not cut. With the barrel plug, doesn't that change? I mean, that makes it non-fireable. And the bolt has been cut.
All right. G-Webs, can you shine in on this one at all? Kind of what the definition of demilling a firearm is if you want to sell it? Once it no longer is a firearm, it's just a demilled piece of steel, essentially, at that point, when it loses. What do you think?
What are we talking, like, for national or state? The definition would be kind of like depending on what you're doing. So if you're talking about like importing, the definition of demill would be like a federal level definition, and it would apply to importing. But if you're talking like NFA or Gun Control Act, I don't think there's anything in those that talk about demilling. So, I mean, what context are we talking about?
British Gen gun from World War II that has been the barrel's been plugged, the bolt has been cut, but it's still, you can still pull the bolt back, eject the magazine. And I just am wondering is it correctly demilled?
Yeah, that would be a couple of things. One, it can't be a machine gun. It can't be it had to be killed a long time ago. So that's one thing. So in other words, you can't bring like a Sten out of nowhere, out of your garage and do that anymore legally. There's no amnesties for that. So that's one situation. But if you got like a parts kit and you wanted to demill it, to put it together or whatever, then it can't be a firearm. So there's the demilling and the respect that you can put a parts kit together. I've done that, where you just get your parts and you never put them together and you just kind of assemble them back into the shape of a firearm, and they can do stuff like move a bolt and that, but they're not a gun. There's nothing that's holding it really together. It can't fire anything. So that's a way to have a demilled item. But if you're going to start to assemble it and it can actually function, then it has to, I don't know. There is a definition somewhere for CNR, I think. I'm trying to remember where the one that would apply, but there's a federal definition, and it is, it depends on the device. Like you demill a rocket launcher differently than you demill a mortar, differently than you demill a rifle, differently than you demill a pistol. So in a revolver, right? Like all these guns have their own characteristics. So usually it's ruining
that I posted on the side chat there. That's a company that sells demilled firearms, and you can see what they do. They sell some of them in pieces.
And we're talking a Sten. With a Sten, you basically got I don't want to say because I don't know. I've only ever seen parts kits. I haven't seen something that was, because I've definitely seen dummy Stens. That was the biggest thing ever, because those guns cost like $7 or $8 to make, right?
They were way cheaper than the Thompsons, right?
And they made them by the dozen, hundreds, I don't know, tons. Because I remember as a little kid, you could get Sten dummy guns, and they have to exist. They had them in the back of magazines forever. I mean, we all remember them. I mean, almost in comic books, they were like nobody wanted them because they were the cheap old. You wanted a Thompson or you wanted something cool. You didn't want the cheapest gun from World War II. But if it's something like that, then I gotta assume they built that according to spec or whatever.
Now they're selling what appears to be, complete firearms on that website that I put the link for on the side there, and they get a premium for it, but they've got some welds and cuts in them that was enough to get them ATF approved for sale. but they're very expensive. Like they got original STG or MP44s for $5,500, and they've got a Vietnam era M16A1 as another STG 44, so MP44. So they're selling what appear to be complete guns, but obviously the receivers have been cut or destroyed in some way they can't function. Maybe welded shut essentially, or welded in a way they can't ever be used again.
Because usually that can be removed with a Dremel tool. So the welding is like, you see that kind of stuff back in the day, but it's more like cut hole, remove pieces type of thing.
Yeah.
But a lot of times in these pictures too, they're showing you, I think, what, like a example, like here's what it is. They're not necessarily showing you the parts. I think they're just like on some of these mortars and big full guns.
Yeah.
They're showing you the whole gun as a representation, not necessarily the parts kit. But there's a thing like that, it kills it. So let's say you take an AK. We all know AKs. An AK would normally have a third pin, third hole, and a third, the full auto sear would be another pin, another hole in each side of the receiver. So when they kill a parts kit, when they kill a real machine gun or a AK and they bring it in as a parts kit, one of the cuts, either the saw cut or a torch cut, is going to go through that third hole or whatever. And that effectively turns it into just a bunch of metal. It's not anything anymore, right? So when you put a bunch of nothing back together, as long as you don't put that third hole back in, you didn't rebuild a machine gun. So that's where I don't know what to call it, like the situation that we've got with laws and compliance and the end of giant world wars and the Cold War and stuff, we end up with a bunch of parts kits that are in compliance. And there's nothing that has been done any differently. It's just that now we have the tech to really fill in the gaps. If let's say you cut a receiver, you torch a receiver, and there's going to be I think there's actually by law supposed to be like a 1/4 inch or more missing. Like there has to be metal that's not there anymore. Well, they can put all that back. And if you're not putting back the characteristics that make it full auto, there's people that are really good at putting together milled AK. You can take 4 different guns, and as long as you got the portions that overlap, that make up a real receiver, or all the dimensions of a receiver, they'll just cut them and put them all back together, weld them really nice. They're super strong. They'll cosmetically look like one piece of metal. They'll be mechanically sound, and they're in compliance because even though they were made up of 4 different machine guns, none of the characteristics of a machine gun exist. It's now a semi-auto made of machine guns that's in compliance. So these parts kits, that's why they're selling these parts kits for thousands of dollars, because now they can do the same thing with all them guns that I don't even know from World War II. All these things on the site, the MP43 and the fucking 1918. Well, 1918 is unique because that's just, or not the 1918, the 1919 is just a piece of metal. Its receiver is a piece of metal. So they can sell you 99% of the gun as just parts. And then it's the piece of metal receiver that fits on the one side. That's that's the gun. It's ridiculous. Most of them, they can sell you 90% of the parts, and they'll just, even the Sten. When I was putting together AKs, and at the end of this assault weapons ban, they were just coming up with ways that you could put back together a Sten parts kit in semi-auto, and it just never caught on because Sten's kind of weird, with the mag going out the side and stuff. It sounds cool until you try to put it down somewhere. And then you're like, hey, this thing doesn't even fit on a shelf good. Like, you can't put this in your space. It's just a dumb orientation of mag and grip, So that particular gun never caught on. But that's how you see those PPSHs as pistols now so much and that kind of thing. Like, people are figuring out how to put these parts kits back together as semis.
But, really, Duke, you could follow the steps on how to destroy a firearm on the ATF website, especially if this thing has already been demilled, and then you could do that and then sell it as parts.
Definitely. And you might get more. Well, it depends.
I'm seeing like $400 for a grease gun on that website that we were looking at. I mean, all that stuff is sold out anyway, but that was what it sold for when they had them.
But the grease gun's a 45 ACP US. The Sten is a 91 English. So it's a little, it was a $7 gun versus like a $15 gun. But there's fewer grease guns, and they're ours. And I think we used our grease guns in Nam, so that means they got rusted out in Nam, where the Stens stayed in England. I don't know if they got rusted or what.
Gave me props, yeah.
Well, thanks. I appreciate the answer on that, gentlemen. Thank you.
But I think if you bought it like that, more than likely all that stuff's happened. I mean, it would be really rare, I think, for you to have somebody's full auto gun that they demilled wrong and you somehow have it and sell it and then get caught. I mean, there would be so many ifs and maybes that.
Yeah, that's that. You're right. You're absolutely right on that. It's probably just some parts kit some guy put together for his kid, to run around with.
We're back live again.
Yeah,
we've been back on for a little while. Yeah,
I had to use StreamYard, so I'm not StreamYard, but
if someone sends you
OBS
to a if somebody sends you a link to a Rick Astley video and that's being rickrolled, what is it called when they sing Africa at you in the text message of your chat?
You're being Toto rolled.
No,
you're being Totoed.
Totoed.
Yeah. But I like Africa, so I'm not that big at E Honda.
They send you a link to the Fat Boy song Jelly Roll. Are you being jelly rolled? So I'd love to be jelly rolled. Go for jelly roll right now.
So.
Oh man. Sidestrike, are we good or what?
I don't know. I may have to overhaul the whole damn system again because it should not be cutting out after 60 seconds. And,
we're still back on though. We're good again. It came back on after at least.
Yeah, because I set up OBS and I didn't want to have to set up OBS for this. This is supposed to be able to just stream straight to it, and so. Anyways, I don't want to get into it. So.
It's all good, man.
I'll have to fix it this weekend. Or this week, probably tomorrow. Anyways, what do you want to do, Travis? You want to go over something? You want to talk about something?
We can talk about something real quick. I think this might be relevant and important because we're getting to the end of the school year, and, there's a lot of people that are moving right now. Should I talk about that little apartment rental notice thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so those of you that have kids maybe that are moving out of the house, or maybe you're moving into a new place, or you're in a situation where you're going to be moving for whatever reason, pay attention, and you might not be thinking about it at the time because you might be with your significant other and you're all excited about the apartment that you're getting, or just kind of caught up in the rush of things and you just want to get in the place you want to live in. Check the fine print on your lease agreement for your apartment or your house rental and make sure that it allows firearms or that it doesn't have any kind of prohibition on, I don't know, a certain amount of ammo or firearms, because if you're not the property owner, and I don't know how much legal clout this has, but there could be some restrictions on what you can and can't do with your firearms. Because you might have a kid moving into their first place after graduating from high school or college, and they're carrying their guns upstairs into their apartment. The neighbor sees them or the landlord sees them and gets them in trouble and gets their lease terminated. So check that now, especially, and if you got kids that are going off to college and they want to take their firearms with them. I mean, obviously they know what they need to do with them, but a lot of campuses will let you check them in, depending on how they do it. Here in Nebraska, I believe University of Nebraska and Lincoln, you had to check in your firearms with the Lincoln Police Department, but then you could go check them out anytime you want, obviously during their business hours or whatever, to go get your gun and go hunting or whatever. That was just for kids that were on campus that couldn't storm on campus, that wanted to bring their guns with them, that wanted to go hunting or wanted to go shooting. So, what's that, G?
Well, I don't know. I was going to complain about that, I guess, but it's probably because it's illegal to have guns on campus. There should be some, as opposed to that, they should just give the kids that own guns a waiver. Like, oh, you're obviously not a criminal, so that law doesn't apply to you. It applies to criminals. So, of course, you can have your lawfully owned firearms here on campus.
Oh, yeah, no, and I mean, I think it's ridiculous completely. I'm just saying if you got kids that go, myself, well, I didn't have a gun I brought with me to college at that point. But, yeah, for anybody that is, just make sure you guys know the rules and laws. If you're older, you got your carry permit, many times you can store your firearm in a locked container in your vehicle or in the glove box locked up, and then you're fine. It could be technically on campus and you wouldn't get in trouble, but it depends on the state, depends on the state law.
Well, that's a good point. You can be 18 in some states and get your CCW. And with the CCW, you're right. The laws are different. They apply differently when you're carrying with a permit.
Yep.
When you're talking about going in and out, I mean, having a guitar case instead of a rifle case, or having a
tennis bag, racket bag.
Tennis bag instead of a whatever tactical, blah 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 stuff. But at the same time, you shouldn't have to hide your deal, right? I mean, and that part of outreach and getting more people in and figuring out how to get a rifle team or a pistol team at your school is by letting people know you shoot. Here in Arizona and Tucson, there's the Wildcats. So the Wildcats is the name of the team for the school, and then they changed it to a G for GAT, right? Wildcats is the shooting team, and they go around with shooting jerseys. You know how like a competition shooter wear those type of style of jerseys that kind of have the logos all over them?
Yeah.
They have their sponsors and stuff on their logos or on their jerseys, and they don't hide. I mean, it's Arizona, so it's not like they're getting any kind of. I'm sure they're not getting too much flack for it, but Tucson at least isn't a super conservative town or anything, so it is a bit of a. It's not a given. It's not like you would think maybe in the middle of the Midwest or something where you could probably Texas or something. You could probably do guns without any kind of repercussion.
Yeah.
I don't think they get picketed or anything, but at the same time, whatever. It's a way that they're doing outreach. They're getting the word out there. They're normalizing Second Amendment and gun ownership.
Oh yeah, we've got some high school teams out here in Nebraska that have trap and ski teams, so that's not uncommon. I don't know if they have, and then we've got a lot of your youth shooting sports, 4-H, and I know they do some stuff in Boy Scouts and things like that. So there should be more.
The defense dad is saying you can't store it here for over 24 hours in your car unattended for city ordinance. So that you could end that city ordinance real quick by just like a parking meter. If you've got to go out and put a coin in a parking meter, you just set an alarm or whatever, and you go out there. How does it say? How many? 24 hours. So every 23 hours, you go out there and pop a few rounds. Parking lot pop a couple of rounds out, and then you're like, all right. So this is getting to be annoying. You can just leave your gun in your car. They'll get rid of that ordinance. Don't use a suppressor, right? Do it loud. Do it like a 10 millimeter.
Yeah, Defense Dad's talking about Lincoln, Nebraska, because they have a city ordinance for that. I know Omaha's got some other rules you have to follow too, but then the other, I don't know about every other city outside of Lincoln and Omaha, but it's a little bit different there too. But yeah,
and ring and yell out right before you shoot, like I'm just following the law.
Just yell Wolverines and
Great way to get shot in New York.
There you go, man. There you go. So that was the first thing we were just going to talk about is just
when you started talking about renting, I was thinking you were going to say when you're renting, make sure that you don't have to be home by 9 p.m. and you can't have guests over and you can't have pickup trucks and.
Yeah, some places I suppose.
I have another question, Travis.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, have you heard about the Red Dawn deleted scene at McDonald's?
Yeah, you know what? Gee, didn't I send you a link to that many years ago? There was a deleted scene from Red Dawn that I think I sent it to your Facebook or on you. I found one. I was like, "Have you ever seen this?" And you're like, "Holy, yeah, no."
There's
the red
DVDs from back in the day. Whenever they started doing DVD extras, right? That was one of the DVD extras from back in the day. So.
Yeah, I've seen that, but do you want to remind me what do they say in that scene? I've seen it once, but it's been many, many years. What was it again? It's the Russian guys are out front of McDonald's, right?
Well, I don't think it's this. It's just a what do they call like a B-roll?
Just a picture from it or something.
No, I mean it's just like whenever there's the part where from what I understand, because it's removed from the movie, but we know how there's the gist of the movie is the Cubans and the Russians together take over. So when they're in that initial running around and there's the chaos and they're taking over the town, I think as part of the settling down and now it's the fighting's over and the clouds settling or whatever, the dust is settling. I think it was one of those kind of shots, and it was you've seen the picture. It's like a bunch of Russian guys in uniform sitting in front of the McDonald's eating. So it was like a juxtaposition of commies in front of our McDonald's. But I forget the story of why they decided to pull it. Something had happened at a McDonald's or something, so they pulled it.
There was a shooting at McDonald's, and that's why they cut it. And I just didn't know if anybody else knew about that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah,
nobody really knew about it until, like I say, until they came out with the DVD extras, and then by then, not that many people were like, "Oh, I got to buy every version of Red Dawn that comes out." So I didn't even know about I like Red Dawn, but I didn't know about DVD extras until the internet. So that was. there, but nobody knew about it unless you happened to buy the DVD at the time and then watch the extras and then tell people about it. So I saw that picture with McDonald's because that picture's been around, but no context until, just not too many years ago.
What I like to do with the movies, I like to go back and watch it. I don't even know if they do this anymore, but director commentary, which is on during the entire movie. They'll sit there with some of the actors and talk the whole time. That's been interesting for older movies because you'll hear the director talk about how they intended to do a certain scene or intended to make a certain, film and how it was different. You learn quite a bit about the movies too, just watching it with the director, talking the whole time.
So much more. You don't know what I like more. Sometimes the director or the producer, somebody that's like important, is interesting, but then it's also interesting to listen to like the sound people or like somebody who you don't think about, who have 100, like the editors or something, who have like real control over the movie. You don't think about it. And that's where some of those DVD extras were wild. And you're going to watch this movie for the 5th time. Watching it with insight like that is amazing sometimes.
Yeah, George Romero and Tom Savini have some great commentary on the original Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead. Those are great fun to watch.
Now, how often do you watch something like that and then you're like, oh man, like, let's say I've watched movies like that and I've thought like, this is a really cool part of the movie. And then they'll be like, oh, that part was an accident, or like, we didn't even want that, or we wanted it to be this color and it came out that color and everybody liked it.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I guess it takes away from the magic. I think I would have a harder time watching something like Star Wars with commentary on versus something like Dawn of the Dead, because Star Wars is epic. You have like a reverence for it. And so that Dawn of the Dead is much different. So I guess that's right though. I would take that into context.
But sometimes it's awesome. Like sometimes you're like, wow, it makes it even more awesome that, they care about this, or that, that was an accident. But then other times it's like totally disillusional. Like, oh crap, I didn't want to know that.
Yeah, I totally get it. Like finding out that they made a zombie head and filled it with like all the stuff that was on the table for lunch that day, like shrimp cocktail sauce, and then they just shot it with a shotgun and filmed it. That was awesome to find out about.
Sorry about that, guys. Dog was barking.
It's neat too when you find out something like that. Like, oh, we just needed, like, we forgot our stuff, so we did it this way, and then it came out, so we left it. And then you find out that like 6 other movies, started becoming a director because of that scene, and they've like things like that become apparent way after the fact based on like commentaries and stuff. I'd like to see a YouTube channel. You've seen like Vickers or somebody. They'll be like play the movie Heat, and he'll be like, from a perspective of somebody who knows what's going on, be like, this is accurate, that's dumb, like this is movie magic, this couldn't have happened, or this is legit. Have a channel where it's just people from whoever, like Carrie Fisher would have been cool to listen to her as a much older person watching Star Wars or something.
Oh yeah,
pretty sweet, man.
So I know that take on it.
What's that?
Yeah, I was just agreeing with G-Webs.
I've seen the Black Rifle Coffee Company videos where they have the veterans or the service people watch clips from military movies, and they make fun of it or talk about how true it is or untrue it is. Those are pretty entertaining to check out. Is there a version of Red Dawn that has director's commentary on it?
Oh hell yeah, yeah! You can.
I don't know if you ever had a chance to record commentary on it, or if it just came that way. I don't even know. I've got the videotape of it, the VHS tape still, but I don't have the DVD.
Yeah, you got to get and it's there was that was an old movie, so it was VHS, and then it was the first DVDs where they barely were like, hey, there's a DVD, but then they figured out, hey, we can put extra stuff on here, and then they started doing commentaries, and then it was like the movie had to rate, right? Because if it wasn't a brand new movie, they weren't doing commentaries on movies from the 80s unless it rated it, right? So that was a movie that did get a commentary eventually, and you can watch all the commentaries on YouTube. That's where I seen them. I don't have a DVD with the commentaries. I've just seen them all on YouTube. But it's the kind where I've only watched it on YouTube, so I haven't actually navigated the DVD. But I get the impression it's not like the director all the way through, which would be awesome because it'd be Milius. It's more like 2 actors for these scenes and like these 2 actors for that scenes and the sound guy for this. So it's, and then a couple of interviews. So it's not like some of them where once the DVD extras was a thing, they would sit down and have the director watch an entire movie, and that would be part of your DVD extras. This was all being done like decades later. So there was just, it's not as fancy as some of the DVD extras, but it accomplishes some of that. But it would be awesome to see them. Actually, I have seen, if you look up Red Dawn actors or whatever you would look up, I've seen maybe like Entertainment Tonight or Hollywood TV shows that would interview the Red Dawn people. I don't know. There must have been maybe when they made the new Red Dawn, they made that at like in 2000 or something, and then it got put on the shelf for like a long time before it actually came out. They probably went back and interviewed all the Red Dawn people when they were making the shitty version of Red Dawn.
Yeah.
And that would have been in the like 2000s. So there was a whole bunch of like videos on YouTube of like these people way after Red Dawn happened, reflecting on Red Dawn for some reason out of nowhere. So there's that. And those are actually pretty interesting because whenever the movie comes out, everybody's like, we love each other. This was the best event ever. Like, we all appreciate this movie and being our time together. And then you find out that the Patrick Swayze and Dirty Dancing chick hated each other. Like, they didn't know.
Grey. Was it Jennifer Grey? Can't remember.
Aaron Grey?
Thompson or, the Jennifer Grey. Yeah.
Jennifer Grey.
They were on Dirty Dancing together also.
Yeah, they hated each other in Red Dawn. So that's one of those things where if you don't get the DVD extras way later, then they're not old enough to not care anymore. It's not like, their old wounds have healed and stuff, so it'd be interesting to hear commentaries of old movies today. I would definitely be interested in a channel where they just have people from good movies go back and chat about what it was like to either make it or, there's so many interesting things like behind the scenes from movies,
So I'm looking up the Red Dawn Collector's Edition, and people are complaining. And it brings a premium. It's about a $35 DVD. People are complaining, saying that it's been edited. There's cuts out of it that were not there from the VHS version. Really? Have you ever noticed any differences in Red Dawn at all, or not?
No, I'd be curious. I never.
Now I want to watch it because I've seen it from. I remember watching HBO and watching it when I was a kid. Interesting. I'll have to see if there's what they did to it. Check out the film length and stuff. And who knows? Maybe somebody watched a version that had all the extras on it, and they didn't put that on the Blu-ray either. I don't know.
You'd have to get. You could get them on eBay though. You'd have to get like an original.
Yeah, compare the two. I got a VHS, man. When we moved, I got it out and dusted it off and located a coax cable, and got it hooked up now. We kept some of our VHS tapes. You got a couple.
I'm going to be honest with you. I have like every version, and there is nothing added from the old VHS to the like. There's 2 different DVDs or 3 different DVDs they've released. I'm pretty sure I've got all of them, and there's never been anything added.
Yeah, the collector's edition, maybe they just have some extra footage, or they have interviews, like looking back on it, or they have a soundtrack.
Yeah, there's a making of.
Yeah,
because the same guy who was the military advisor for Saving Private Ryan. He's a famous guy, Dale, Lieutenant Colonel something. Anyways, he was the military advisor for Red Dawn and put all the kids through boot camp. He made them go on missions and stuff, and did like a 5-week training session with them.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've seen him talk about that. I've seen him talk about that when they were young, like at the time, and then I've seen them like it was probably what you're saying, the collector's edition or whatever, the 25th anniversary or some shit. It was probably that one that I seen the interviews because they're much older. They're not as old as they are now, but they're it's way after the movie was made. Like they're reflecting on it, and they were talking about how for most of them, it was their first movie. So it was like, their first whatever experiences on a set and how it was so intense compared to other shit they've done.
Crazy stuff, man.
Yeah, it's really cool. And it comes off because, towards the middle of the movie, when they become proficient with firearms, they look proficient with firearms.
Yeah, you'd assume you'd kind of have to do that, especially with a group of new people or kids. I assume they all probably weren't that way with firearms. I don't know if paintball was big back then, but even if it was, I doubt every kid ran around like that. So same thing today with the John Wick movies, where he's running through training. So, but it did do a good job coming through because they did look fairly tight in my memory.
Oh yeah. Is Night Strike still alive out there? Night Strike, you with us?
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
I'm trying to.
Wait, should we get some?
Why this is?
It's all right, man.
So. No, it makes
Never liked the one scene.
It makes me sad.
Sorry, go ahead.
It makes me sad.
Never liked the one scene when they were by the road and found all that stuff that fell off the truck or whatever, scoping it out. And then I think a Russian helicopter came in and the kid just ran out and got shot up. I just thought that was always cool. They did so well to that point. Why would you expose yourself like that? It seemed crazy to me.
He just snapped, man. He just snapped.
Yeah, I know, but that's, I don't know. Yeah. Good mood.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we got a little bit of gun news I can throw out there if you guys are interested. You want me to go through a few things for you here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Check it out. So, guys, I'm going to talk about the Louisiana reducing gun-free zones. There's two of them, it looks like. There's two different kinds of reduction of gun-free zones that are out there. So, ammoland.com, I like the website because they put out a lot of positive 2A news and a lot of positive firearms news, which we don't seem to get in the mainstream media, obviously. And so this one is from ammoland.com. I'll go ahead and post this article over here on the YouTube side if you guys want to check this out real quick. Kind of interesting, especially if you live down south. This might affect you. We got a lot of YouTubers out there, subs and stuff that are living in these areas. But it says Louisiana looks to reduce gun-free zones, and then WV West Virginia SB 96 becomes effective. So we'll see how these things actually get carried out, or if anybody else tries to counter it or fight it. But it says USA preemption law is moving in Louisiana and becomes effective in West Virginia at the end of May. As with nearly all states, Louisiana has a statute that preempts local governments from enacting ordinances or regulations which are in conflict with state laws regarding firearms. The idea is that firearms laws should be uniform statewide so that people exercising their right to keep and bear arms will not be in violation of the law simply by crossing a street from one municipality to another or one county to another. Some states have rigorous preemption laws and other states have minimal laws. So make sure you guys definitely know your laws when you're traveling around with your firearms. HB 140 is a bill in the Louisiana legislature that would extend the current preemption law to forbid local governments from banning firearms in certain commercial and public properties. The effect is to substantially reduce the number of gun-free zones in Louisiana. And from the abstract of HB 140, legisland.com, it says, present law limits a political subdivision's authority to enact certain ordinances or regulations involving firearms. In this regard, present law prohibits a governing authority of a political subdivision from enacting any ordinance or regulation that is more restrictive than state law concerning the sale, purchase, possession, ownership, and it goes on and on and on, of firearms or ammunition. However, present law further provides that this provision of present law does not apply to the authority political to subdivisions to prohibit the possession of a weapon or firearm in certain commercial establishments and public buildings. So it says, as kind of a summary, proposed law removes this exception from present law, prohibiting any governing authority of a political subdivision from enacting any ordinance or regulation that is more restrictive than state law concerning the possession of a weapon or firearm in certain commercial establishments and public buildings. HB 140 has not been voted on yet, but it has made it through the Committee on Criminal Justice in the House. And floor debate on the bill has already happened. Friday, May 22nd, 2020. So we'll see if anything's come out of this at all. And they talk about how the Republicans have strong majorities in the Senate and the House. It says the Republicans may pass the bill only to see Governor Edwards veto it. So it's a lot of energy and effort, but we don't know if anything's going to come out of it. But again, kind of the idea of, it says the history of preemption laws shows a trend to restrict local governments more and more from enacting ordinances and regulations impacting firearms and other weapons. A key strategy of those who want the population disarmed is to enact numerous contradictory and ever-changing restrictions. So those exercising Second Amendment rights would constantly be uncertain if they are acting legally or are in violation of an obscure ordinance. So, I mean, it's tough enough when you go from one state to the other, to know, okay, do my laws supersede the laws of the land I'm going into? Am I going to be safe with what I'm doing? Do I have to transport my firearm in a certain way, or am I able to move around my firearms in a particular manner? And it can be a little bit confusing. If anybody's ever taken a trip through many states, you obviously want to make sure you follow the law and not get yourself in trouble. And it can be a bit confusing. I know.
Yeah, and definitely watch, your travels. If I came up with that issue as far as traveling to Florida, where I can't remember what state it was, but I wasn't supposed to go through. And due to a traffic accident, GPS rerouted us, and basically I almost had a meltdown when I started to see the signs. So yeah, we had to kind of reroute real quick, which cost us more time. And, it's one of them things you probably just, hope to pray to get through. But the luck I have, I'd just rather not try that. So definitely keep an eye out. Watch if you're rerouting. So I used the USCCA map, which was pretty helpful. Just a free map out there for anybody looking.
Yeah, there's apps you can get that are free also on the Android store, Android Play Store, and the Apple Store, where it'll show you like reciprocity in other states and what specific gun laws you have to follow, whether you're concealing or not. And I've always found that kind of handy too. We did a little trip down to the southeast, and there was a couple times where we ended up having to pull over, and I had to stow my firearm because it was on my person, and I wasn't allowed to carry concealed in that state because of lack of reciprocity. So I had to disarm, and then as soon as we crossed the state, 2 hours later, I was able to, as soon as I crossed over the state line, load it back up. And I know it seems ridiculous, but being out of state, there's, in my opinion, I think you've got a higher tendency of getting pulled over, especially here in Nebraska. Most of the cars you see, they get pulled over out of state. That's usually because of speeding and stuff, but
same here.
And searches and things like that. And I just don't want to be that kind of person,
Most people just pay a ticket during travel and come back and fight it. So
yeah. Oh yeah.
My strategy is going forward is going to be to take a helicopter everywhere. That way I technically never have to set foot in any of those states that are crazy. I can just hover above them. But now in the age of the diseases, when I go to a drive-thru or something, it's going to blow all the diseases away.
Awesome.
Exactly.
I don't know if you're going to clear them 10-foot routes.
You had your own helicopter. I wonder if you have to, because you're up in the air, you're over a state's airspace, but you're not necessarily on their land, Yeah.
And let's say you got to go somewhere in a state that sucks. You can leave your gun in your helicopter, leave somebody else flying it, jump out of the helicopter, do your business. And if something bad goes down, they just drop a cord down to you and you can fly out of there.
Exactly. You haven't exactly, set foot on their land with your firearm. So that's definitely the way to do it. But
so you got a service for that?
What's that?
So does he have a service for that? Is there a number we should know in case we want to get a helicopter?
It costs too much to rent the helicopter, so just buy a helicopter.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, just like buying a Glock, buy a used police helicopter, and they're cheaper.
There you go.
I don't know about swapping parts like that on a helicopter.
I've been tempted to pick up. Gee, do you have one of those old Crown Vics at all, or not? You did for a while, or?
I just haven't. I turned it to where I pay like $40 a year for insurance now.
Yeah,
I insured to be in the driveway basically, so it just sits there, not running.
Okay.
I own it, but I can't drive it anymore. It worked. I just couldn't afford to insure both of them.
Oh
So
yeah,
just drive the van. The police car just sits there.
Oh man, those are. I've been tempted to pick one up because they seem to be a decent deal. I know that depending on
they're
how
awesome. If it had a cruise control, I got addicted to cruise control. Doing the road trips and stuff because that cop car doesn't have cruise control. And when I first bought it, the guy was like, if you want cruise control, I'll sell you this other steering column and blah, blah, blah. And I would have had to swap out the steering column right after I bought the thing. And I didn't feel like doing all that. So I just was like, all right, I want to have cruise control, which I never had cruise control, so it didn't bother me. Then the new van has cruise control. I'm never going back. There's no way I'm ever driving a car without cruise control. So it's one of the reasons I drive the cop car is I drive it around town, I guess, because it's fun. It's the funnest car to drive. But I'm not going anywhere in it.
Do you have like the tinted windows on it and stuff? Is it true people like get over and slow down when they see it in their rear views and stuff?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, yes, for sure. But think about it. Like that Crown Vics aren't cop cars anymore. Cop cars are usually SUVs or other things like the Dodges now. So yes, but old people, not young people, aren't looking for Crown Vics anymore.
Yeah. Say the older people our age are like, oh, that's undercover speeding car, Yeah. I would definitely get the Crown Vic now, like the Explorers and the Tahoes and stuff like that. I'd probably have to pass on because I just don't know if they're as durable, especially when you start to get the high miles on them and stuff.
They have police packages, but every vehicle has its thing. So the Crown Vic was around for so long that they kind of got rid of the things. Like there are some issues, like there's models, I guess, there's like big changes throughout the lifespan of the thing. There's like a couple of drivetrains that are better than others or whatever, but for the most part, they had it down. They knew what they were doing, and they built, fleet vehicles. So what I've heard about, like the new ones, the Vipers and stuff, like they have lifespans. Like they're figuring out now that they've been on the streets long enough that, like, this lasts for 130,000 miles. That lasts for 5 years. Like, so there's at some point you see these new cop cars hitting the used market, but they're dead. They're used up. They can't even be they can't even be taxis anymore. Where the Crown Vics, they would wear out because whatever the math is when you're running a government or whatever, like it was going to cost more to repair it than it was to buy a new one, but it wasn't used up. And taxi services would buy them, and other people they would buy them, right? Like people buy old cop cars because they got a lot of life. You buy them at 200,000 miles and you get another 200,000 miles out of them. It just costs more to get that 200,000 than it does to get the first 200. So governments get rid of them. But it was a really good fleet vehicle. When you get into the other stuff that they're using now, they just don't have the time on the clock. So yeah, they're still discovering, from what I can tell. And that's why I don't have a new cop car with cruise control, because there isn't a thing to replace the Crown Vic. There isn't like an old cop car you can buy now that's still got life in it. Old cop cars now are dead. Like you're buying wrecks. There's nothing left to.
Well, I'm looking. You can still find some low mileage ones over here on eBay. Like I'm looking at one that's got 84,000 miles on it, but could have been.
Wait, are you talking a Crown Vic or
Crown Vic Police Interceptor?
No, not Vic. Crown Vics. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking like the Chargers and
the
SUVs, like those platforms die. Like when they get worn out, they're not useful anymore. Crown Vics are if you buy a Crown Vic that's never, well, even if it's been wrecked, they're designed to get wrecked. They're designed to get wrecked well. Like
modular, you can replace the parts with Legos.
Well, they built them around that platform because you can wreck like the wheels on them and pull the wheel off, and the whole car isn't wrecked. Like you can put it back together, and it's still a decent car comparatively. I mean, it's kind of So that's why it's a fleet vehicle. But that's just the thing that the reason I keep it is because it doesn't cost me nothing. It costs me $40 a year to leave it in the driveway, but I don't think I'll be able to go get an old Crown or an old Charger or an old. I don't even know what to call the SUVs because
they got Tahoes they drive and Ford Explorers out here. The Tahoes,
you're right, and that's there's like a Dodge Police, whatever you call like a truck package and stuff like that. They do make the truck version or cop versions of them, but except for maybe that Tahoe, I wouldn't know. There's just too many SUV cop versions out there for me to keep track of.
Yeah,
but they're too expensive too. I mean, buying a new vehicle is way like $6,000, $8,000 for an old cop car now. Where the Crown Vics, you can get them for hundreds of dollars. Like they're nothing. They don't cost much.
Yeah, the ones that are bringing a premium, and it's just like most of your old cars, the low mileage models. I think that'd make a good first car for a teen. I think.
I think cars are made a little bit differently today. I know I looked up, did a search a while ago on, best bang for the buck car, longest, best mileage. And I believe the Crown Vic was one of the vehicles on there where it's known to get, I don't know, 500,000 miles or something like that. It was something ridiculous.
Up with like the old Forerunners and stuff, Yeah.
Yeah, there was like the Chevy pickups, there was the older ones. So, but I think it does have a lot to do with how things were made. From what I hear, modern cars are basically intended to be scrapped within 10 years through 3 owners. So they're not really designed with the same intent that
or they're so expensive to replace the drivetrains. It's worth more than what the car's worth. The resale. Yeah. We've sold 2 cars now that we've purchased new. We sold them for, we think about an 80% loss in 10 years and 100,000 miles. So you sell it, you buy it we bought our first new car back in 2003 for 13,000. Ended up selling it, I think, for 2. Book value on it wasn't even that high. Our Honda that we recently sold, we paid 20. Well, okay, it was 24, but we had a trade in. There's a buttload of rebates, but sticking on it for 24. We got 4 for it, and the book value on it was like 5 or 6 at the dealership. So you take such a hit in resale on these things that once they're worn out, they're not even worth repairing.
Definitely not by book value anyway. In most cases, there is a few rare vehicles out there that do hold value, and some cases go up, but that's a rare market. So
yeah, these Crown Vics, I mean, they maybe something to consider.
Yeah, the only thing with the cop car for a kid would be that it is fast. I mean, they're not race cars or nothing, but they can go 100 and something miles an hour, and they seem like they're like a magnet. I mean, I've driven I don't go into cars and drive them like I got nothing else to do, but I've driven rental cars and other people's cars. It's not like I'm afraid to drive other cars, but I don't, I'm not like I'm doing that every weekend or anything. But a cop car, they hold the road better than a regular car. I mean, they are fun to drive, and me being like an aware but inexperienced driver or whatever, like I can tell that a cop car could get you in trouble if you were a kid, because it would feel like you were in more control than you probably really are.
Oh yeah. Well, and you got rear-wheel drive too, and there's probably just ABS, and that might be about it unless you get one of the newer ones.
Well, I don't know about performance like that. I just know that when I've taken it to over 100 a couple of times, like it gets a little weird. Like it's not the same characteristics, and it's not a race car. So I mean, even though it can go fast, it can go fast when you're a cop and knows how to drive cars. That's the only thing I would say compared to a regular Crown Vic. They're whatever. The Crown Vic for cop cars are geared where I can go from 60 to 100 on the highway faster than other people. Right? I can't go from 0 to 100 faster than a race car. But I can go from 60 to 100 and you can put yourself in the seat going from 60 to 100. And that part I'm not saying it's faster than other cars. I'm just saying that part is not what regular cars can do. That part would be scary for a kid, I bet, or dangerous for a kid who just doesn't know how to drive yet, because it's just a lot of power where you don't have a lot of power, and it's kind of dangerous power, like going from 80 to 100 really fast, like quickly. It's neat.
Oh, yeah,
somebody, but it's super dangerous. I mean, if something happened on the road, pothole or something would take you right out.
Bunch of my buddies drove, Mustang GTs and LXs and Camaros in high school, and I'm surprised we're still alive. My God, I mean, some of those things were, ton of power back then, and again, rear-wheel drive with very little driver assistance to it, no airbags, no crumple zones or anything like that. So. Jesus.
Most of those should have been straight line cars. I've known probably a dozen people that have wrecked Mustangs on back roads and things like that. So they just don't respect the power. They get cocky, and the next thing you know, they're off in a ditch in a tree or something. So watch a kid pulling the parking lot at work, just tapped the gas, went sideways right up on the median, smacked the pole in the parking lot. So. Big ordeal with the boss, everything, and he barely did anything. So people, they don't respect what they don't understand what they're doing. I think so.
Well, seeing a professional driver take a turn, you think like, oh, a car can take that turn, but performing it is totally different. Having the forces and understanding where to hit a curve and all that, you got to learn that through hitting a whole bunch of curves, right?
Yeah, there's experience, and definitely, you got to hop on, even like a road bike, where I've ridden bikes for years or whatever, but I still respect a bike. You don't just hop on a new bike, even if it's identical to another one, because the clutches are different, or ATVs or whatever, even a standard car, the clutch is different. So you got to kind of feel it out. And the suspension might be different, tires might be worn more. So you got to have a little respect for what you're doing.
So here's a question from. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, when you're talking about like a motorcycle, that was something when I was a kid. My friend had an old Camaro, and we built that, souped up a Camaro, and it had a big engine and everything. And when you drove that thing, it was faster than the cop car, like quicker. It was a punchier. It was a faster car, I guess. I don't know how to call it, but it was a quicker car. But yeah, I mean, like you were in your seat from a stoplight. The cop car can't do that, but you were like it was noisy and you were vibrating, and they were in a 1970s thing. Like you were in an old thing that was a muscle car, and you knew it. The cop car is deceiving because you're going 60 miles an hour, and in a normal car, you hit the gas and you're like, now I'm going 65 miles an hour. In a cop car, you're like, oh, I'm going 85 miles an hour. Like I just went from 65 to 85 in a blink. That's where, and you don't realize it because it doesn't make any noise. There's no engine rev. It's just different gearing. All it is. It's not like a bigger engine. It's just a way different gearing, I guess. So that's where I think it's the difference too. Like when you're in a car that is going fast, that's different than like a nice car. Like I don't know what it's like driving a BMW, but I bet you it's kind of the same. Like those cars don't make a lot of noise when they're going fast. They don't make vibrations and stuff. They're not showing off. They just go fast.
It's engineered to have a higher speed, just operating higher speed, I guess.
Although those cars are probably
M3 class, and those things rumble. Some of those things rumble pretty good, but not the average one. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It's quiet but very powerful. It blends right in.
And they got ground packages that hold them to the ground when they're going fast, where cop cars don't bother with that. They just have wheels. So
wheels and tires, and
they're designed to go fast, but then also go over curbs and stuff, right? So they got skid plates and shit underneath them, which is kind of cool, but it doesn't help you when you're going 100. They can go 100, but it's like on ice skates compared to bumper cars or something.
You got to get one of those Blues Brothers mobiles. Then you'll be all set. You can outrun the cops and the Nazis, the Illinois Nazis.
I looked into when I first started paying attention to getting a cop car or whatever. Like I looked into getting an old classic cop car, but what weighed bigger for me was the modern ones just have so much more parts. Like it would be cool to have an old one. They're more powerful and they're cooler cars, but the parts availability is dried up. So there's less, it's going to cost more to keep one of them going. But that would have been.
If you get a fender bender too, you might have to travel states away to get a door or something like that versus the Crown Vic, where it'd be a lot easier to source something out too.
Yeah, that's true. Well, the thing about those Crown Vics too is they didn't change. The bodies themselves didn't change a whole lot over the years. So yeah, your replacement parts are probably going to be a little bit lower. Maybe not, the engine and drivetrain and certain parts like your alternator and your tires and wheels and things like that. But body panels are going to be a lot more widely available. Of course, the eBay these days you can buy anything you want, but
most of that inside stuff didn't change at all. So yeah, like 90 or 80% of the guts, all that car is almost the same. It got a little roundier on the outside over the years, and like a drivetrain or something would change once in a while. But yeah, a lot of that stuff is basically it's the same car from like the 90s to now.
Yeah. Cool.
Years ago, some of the Mustang guys would try to source those cars for the motors. Some of them having apparently the same 5.0 engine as the Mustang had in them. So I don't know all that much about them, but they were a hot commodity for quite a while in the past.
There's a cop Mustang, right? When they had those Pursuit Mustangs, I think that was a Ford cop car. So it was a Mustang
LX is what it was. Yeah, we experienced those a couple times when I was in high school.
Jersey used to have Camaros. They look nice too.
Yeah, you got to see what those go for these days too. That's pretty crazy. Some of the older, any low mileage kind of hot rod from the 80s and 90s, it's just nuts what they're bringing on the market now too.
Yeah, I think they're still fun to drive. I think that's it's nostalgia for a lot of people. There's a lot of people now that couldn't afford to have them, in that type of shape then, that now they look back at it and say, shit, might as well pick one of them up. They're not that bad, looking at a new car in some cases. So I've seen some where you can get them for 22, 25, 30 grand. It seems like a lot, but when you're buying something that's, kind of historic, it's got that rumble, it doesn't have all the fancy bells and whistles, because that's not what it's about. When you're buying it to enjoy the drive, I think it's well worth it, and the car will last, and probably end up going up in value if take care of it.
Oh yeah, keep it original if you don't tear it all up and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, now I'm looking for police interceptors for sale on Facebook. This is bad.
Don't get yourself in trouble, Trav.
Yeah, exactly. I know. Roll up on that the first day.
Trying to get the word quicker, so I gotta see what's going on here. And buy yourself an extra 20 minutes in the morning.
Oh man. No, I had a 91 Mustang GT that we owned for about 7 years, I think, and ended up selling it when we bought our house. And that thing was so much fun to drive. At 5-speed, it'd been built up pretty good. It wasn't original at all. And it's kind of funny. I bought it from another teacher's son who was older. He was almost as old as me, actually. And he had been working on it for years and years, and ended up moving to Florida. And it was just sitting in the garage. And the kid ended up getting married. And parents asked him what he wanted to do with the car. And he's like, well, let's go ahead and sell it. I bought it for, I think, $5,000 back in 2000. Oh, what was it? 2012, 2011 or something like that. No, it was even before then. I ended up selling it, I think, for 6 or 7. So I made a couple $1,000 off of it. But man, when you drive a car like that, I mean, man, you really, be careful, but you really do learn how to drive, I think, in a vehicle like that, because you've got a tremendous amount of power. And it was a 5-speed. I think it was a little beast, man. I mean, you could just tear into it if you wanted to. The only problem with it is the town I lived in, your top speed was 45 miles an hour. So you couldn't really enjoy a car like that. It was geared a little bit lower. So, I mean, it was a beast, but if I really wanted to enjoy it, I'd go take it out on the interstate or take it on the highway. And even then you're only, 60 to 75 miles an hour. But, you definitely learn how to drive when you got rear-wheel drive with power on tap.
I don't remember, not only driven through the one time that I can recall. So are your roads on the highways out there? I know you would have stretches where you can go 100 miles an hour because there's nobody around, but are the roads ate up from snow, or are they nice?
Oh, Interstate 80 is decent for the most part. Yeah, it's 75 miles an hour is the max speed in Nebraska on the Interstate 80. And it's, they're good. The highways,
that wouldn't show you 100 on the interstate, even if you thought you were okay. Who knows what kind of cameras or satellites? But on those like farm roads, where if you can find a farm road that and they is a speed trap, then you can go places that are 100 miles an hour roads, right?
Yeah, on the highway, just going between all these little tiny towns when I would travel on the weekends, living in the small town that I moved from, you knew exactly where the police were sitting for the speed traps. In fact, you kind of do for Interstate 80 now also. But you never know if you're going to come up over a hill on the interstate, or there's going to be an intercept, like a police car down the highway on the other side. Because on Interstate 80, there's really no walls between both lanes of traffic, so they can easily cross over the median and come get you. So, I mean, you might think you're hauling, and they could clock you from, a couple miles away if there's no other cars around you. So you got to watch out for stuff like that. But yeah, it is. The roads are okay. There's a few parts in Nebraska where the highways are pretty nasty, but they do eventually get repaved. But you got to drive on them for years and years before they get them repaved. So,
but that's the thing, because that's where in Montana, right, where they had no speed limits. Like,
I think it's called safe and prudent is what they call it for conditions or something. Yeah.
Yeah, but people would buy like the fanciest cars they felt like, because they knew that in the summer they could go out there and tear around. So I I'm just saying, like you were saying that your town's like 45, but in the big scheme of things, as long as your roads are okay, you're in a pretty good part of the world for driving fast, compared to like LA or something where.
Oh yeah, no, traffic density is not an issue. Like there's stretches on Interstate 80, you can go for miles and miles and not see another car. You know, well, that's not uncommon.
It's uncommon around here.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird situation when you go to places like big cities and try to drive because you're just not conditioned to the pace or, you know, just how quick you have to get around cars and stuff like that. I know that driving when we went down to Florida, we drove from central Nebraska down to Orlando, and God, going through Atlanta, that was just insane, man. I think I saw triple digits for the first time on our little Honda Insight, and I was keeping up with everybody, you know. But it's kind of a freaky feeling, man. What's that?
Go ahead, G.
I was just agreeing. They drive fast in Atlanta, from what I remember.
Oh yeah, you can haul.
I say around the East Coast here, you know, around the city, down Jersey way, things like that. It's like nobody's doing the speed limit. And I've been riding with traffic doing 90, 95, you know, next to grandma over here. And then the police come up and blow by us like we're not even moving. Like, you know, if you do the speed limit, you're probably going to get rear-ended or pulled over and questioned. So it's pretty hairy. Like,
would you say that in general,
you just go?
Would you say there's not a lot of people that get pulled over then? Is that kind of just, you don't really see a lot of that speed stuff, like not in the residential stuff, like on the freeways and everything? Is it basically just understood people just haul ass and that's it? Or
no, it's if you're standing out, I guess. If you're that person that's just got to keep passing people, you're gonna get pulled over. That's how they get you here. Like, you know, everybody will be doing like 90 or so, and then the police come up like 120, and anybody that's, you know, not with the crowd, they get stopped usually. So and then every once in a while you'll come around and bend and see 5 police officers there, and they're just pinging everybody coming by. So, but you know, you got 30 people coming by at one time and 5 officers, so it's like playing the lotto. Who are they gonna get? You know, so yeah, so it's pretty strange because it seems like no matter what you do, sometimes, you know, you're looking for trouble. So if you go too slow, it's a problem, or a speed limit. If you go too fast, it's a problem. So it's just kind of weird in some areas. And then there's other spots where if it says 30 and you're doing 32, you're getting pulled over. So you got to kind of know your areas. But I assume it's like that everywhere in a sense.
Oh yeah.
There's other areas where I've been coming off from a job in PA, and my boss at the time worked out there, and I used to make that trip all the time. This little hamlet or village, I don't know what you call it, has like one part-time officer, and out of the years going back and forth, I seen them one time, and I was doing like 55 and they're 35, which is all just way in the back. All the locals drive like that. And I just stuck my hand up and waved. Actually, I drive slower than the locals. And the guy put his coffee down, and I'm like, oh, here we go. And he just threw his hand up and waved back at me, and I went on my business. So, some place is different depending where you are, I guess. But,
yeah.
Whenever I go around and drive in cruise control, right, I'm going the speed limit, and it's exactly like that. I'll go to some places and people come up behind me, and like I'm the biggest asshole on the planet because I'm going the speed limit.
They get enraged.
See, that's out here in Nebraska, like on Interstate 80. If you're going the speed limit, you stay in the right lane. You know, it's 2 lanes for the most part on Interstate 80. You can go 75, 70, 75. A lot of the trucks go 65. You're not comfortable going fast, people just go around you. I mean, they don't, but you start to get in Omaha, speeds pick up a little bit, but people just go around you. It's not like places that I've been to where they just roll right up on you and tailgate you the whole time and kind of press you to go quicker. I've never really had that experience here, but when I go, you know, down south, like say going down to Texas, you know, in the Dallas area, or you go east, it's a whole different kind of animal, man, when you're driving. It's a lot of fun, actually. Now I like it a lot more now than I used to.
What I've discovered, what I think happens now, and I've seen this from being a passenger and people's cars who do this, and I don't really do this, but people will text or whatever, or do Instagram and stuff, like things that don't take a heck of a lot of attention on their phone, but they'll be doing that. And I'll notice it now in the van because I'll be going the speed limit. And so I'm going the speed limit. If someone's behind me, it's because they're texting and they're just used to like drifting or something. Like they're used to finding somebody on cruise control and just being behind them and letting them brake for them, right? And if they see the headlights, then their peripherals, they brake. They'll get behind me. And then at some point, they'll come up for air and realize that, hey, I'm behind some guy going the speed limit. What the? And they get all mad and they'll pass me and they'll have a phone in one hand and they're yelling at me like I'm the biggest jerk on the planet. And I'm thinking it's because that's a lot of the, that's just the way that they drive. They kind of draft the people in front of them. But like you're saying, like there's towns where everybody, even the like ricketiest old, rusty old vehicle, the guy doing landscaping and you wouldn't even think that it could go 80 miles an hour. Like everybody's just hauling. So there's nowhere to go around. When I'm going the speed limit in the right lane, and I'm going to go the speed limit because I don't want no tickets, right? When I'm going the speed limit, I'm definitely like a rock in the water. Like I'm screwing those people behind me and I know I am, but I'm not going to get a ticket for them, right? Because I don't know where those speed traps are. But you know what I'm saying? Like I can definitely tell that there's people that are just used to having even if the person in front of them is going 90, they're just, online. They're doing their thing or talking. Maybe they're just talking to their friend in the passenger seat, but whatever it is, they're letting the guy in front of them drive. You kind of have to when you're in traffic, right? You're not really paying attention to nothing.
Well, you should pay attention to those people that are freaking out because every once in a while they like to follow you off the exit. So especially
That's
around
a little scary, man.
So, yeah. Oh yeah. They'll a lot of times they'll come out on a yield and get mad because you didn't stop at a yield. Or you had the right of way. They were supposed to yield. You didn't stop for them. And the next thing you know, they're trying to throw stuff at your car. Or they're chasing you. Like half the time they do it and blame you.
This was back in the 90s, so this was well beyond any kind of thing. And this was way before I was carrying or I was just a dumb kid or whatever. But I can remember
carrying, don't even get out of the car. If you deal with somebody and just drive away. Because there's probably going to be a fight.
This one time, guys, like I forget exactly the circumstances, but I remember that I was in the mood. So he goes, pull it over. And I pulled over. And then he got out of his car in front of me, and then I got out of the truck I was in, and then he got the fuck back in his car and ran the fuck off. So that doesn't happen to me very often, but it's only happened once.
You're like, yeah, that's right, man. Oh, man. Oh, God. Good stuff.
Yeah, people are crazy. People are crazy when they get rage.
Oh yeah,
I've seen. I was working on a job with up on a roof and seen a light changed or whatever. I just happened to be glancing that way. Car hit his brakes, stopped. Car behind it ran right into the car and never even hit their brakes. And then the people in the car behind got out and started beating the people in the car in the front. And some other people got off another job of a restaurant that was on a corner as I was coming down to try to go assist because they were like beating the heck out of them. And they ran into them. It was a normal light, but because they stopped, didn't run the light, it was their fault, according to these people in the rear car. And it was all a bunch of high school kids. They didn't even, it wasn't even words. They just got out, ripped the people out, and started beating them. It's like, what the heck?
I wonder why that. I really do wonder why that happens sometimes. How does that
definitely sit in your car for a minute, feel it out. Don't just get out the car. So.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, it is crazy. It's sad that society has come to that in some places. So it's honestly a shame. So
but think about how often there's accidents or whatever compared to the rarity of it coming to that. So the percentage or whatever is so low that. That's all I'm saying. Put it in perspective. Like there's a lot of people that deal with it without getting in anything like that.
Yeah, true. I'm not saying it's everywhere or every day, but it does happen. I would definitely, feel things out before you hop out, depending where you are.
Definitely.
Well, if you're like 7'2", like G-Webs, and you can hold your own, you don't have to worry about it.
The thing is, you think about, I was just thinking, like, you're driving or whatever, you're thinking about the last, like, your friend at work or your idiot cousin or your sister, or like, you're thinking of the people you know that have done dumb things. So when you're driving, the other person is all the people that you know doing dumb things. You don't realize they just dropped their cigarette into their crotch and they're like, or like their wife just broke up with them, or I don't know, whatever. So who knows what's going on in their world. So that's the thing. We just assume that we know whatever people are working against us when it's just randomness bumping into each other half the time, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I think we're all human. We've all cut somebody off or almost or whatever and felt like an idiot in the past or whatnot. I mean, I think at a certain amount of time, you'd have to be lying if you said you didn't driving. Even bikes, I've come close to cutting a bike off because, here they go by like they're on a different road doing 100 miles an hour everywhere. You go to switch lanes and the next thing you know, they're there. And it's like, whoa. But, it's one of them things, but it's nothing to, ruin your life over because, somebody didn't let you out or something like that, in my opinion. I honestly laugh a lot of times when people start freaking out for no reason. And that's probably a bad thing because that seems to enrage them even more, but I can't help it. So,
fast forward and into the future, you think I figure there'll be some version of like, your phone will dock with your vehicle that you're in or something, and then some sort of social score will happen. And perhaps if you do something, if you're the offender, like some kind of thing or something like that possible, that then from thinking like maybe from insurance or getting a ticket type of thing, like, at some point if they can do like now they can use facial recognition and phone GPS or whatever. It's not really GPS as much as just knowing where the phone is on the planet through other means. But basically, when they can track a phone to see if we're talking to each other or who we've been in contact with to check a spread of disease, it's just another layer of keeping track of stuff to figure out how often we cut people off in traffic or how often we're not carpooling. So I've been watching stuff about insurance where it's like, if you don't drive a lot, then you shouldn't pay a lot of insurance. And it's like, yeah, why don't they just actually go off your odometer with it? And they kind of do. You know what I mean? Like how long before
our wife's got something she plugs in the bottom of her car underneath the steering wheel. And it tracks how like fast she goes, how many stops she has, her frequency of driving, and it sends it all in. I forgot what it's called, but it helps our insurance to go down if we're good drivers.
Exactly. So that's what no one interacts with each other or maybe with the government or something so that, your vehicle will say, sort of like Yelp or something. Maybe like you'll have an app that comes up on a heads up and it'll say, that guy over there has bad rap. Like he's probably got tickets or he's been in wrecks or something, but stay clear of that guy. He's a distracted driver. Like all these green cars, they don't have any problems, but that guy over there, like maybe we'll see smart cars avoiding, like that guy's a human driver, and they'll make big room around them as the smart cars are driving past them. I don't know. I'm just wondering what it's going to be like in the future. I'm sure we weren't going to have fender benders and stuff, though.
Maybe. I hope not. I love the freedom of driving myself.
I agree.
Some people like to go with trains and all this, but to me, there's, the journeys half the idea, half the goal of the trip is basically the things you can see on travel or just pulling off, check this out or whatever.
But remember, though, they're gonna market it as the convenience of not having to drive anymore, and it'll take you from point A to point B. And you can enjoy your family and update your Facebook status, and that's where it's going. Man.
I don't even like to plug in things because, in a sense, that it's kind of building a profile and this and that. And in some situations, things could be wrong, in a sense. So, or possibly against you. So I just, it's not worth it. I don't know what they said, 5% off or something like that. To me, I just heck with it.
When you sit in those things, you don't sit like front seat and back seat both looking the same way. You sit like in a amusement park ride where you look towards each other like a picnic table.
Oh yeah.
So the self-driving cars, if you're talking about the experience, they're going to allow it to be an interact. Like, you'll have heads-up displays, and like, we're going through this neighborhood. You'll be sitting there talking to the other people in the car. And if you choose to pay attention to what you're driving past, you'll be able to take it to a whole nother level, because you're not going to be, most of your attention is going to be on trying to stay alive and navigate. It'll just be on having a conversation about where you are. But if you choose to ignore it, you could be having like business meetings or eating dinner. Like, you could all pick up everybody, eat dinner, and by the time you get home, you've ate dinner.
You already ate? Yeah.
I can see that as like a tour bus thing or something like that, but a personal vehicle, I don't want no part in that. I mean, half of it
it's
is
common, man. I'm
just
telling you right now.
Drive on a back road. It's therapy in a way to drive sometimes. So, and it depends. Some people are drivers, some don't. Some just use a vehicle. Some, know when their left tire, front left, is a little low because they can feel it pulling, or what, I don't know. Some people get bond with their vehicles more than others. I think the ones like that actually enjoy the ride, that would go out and buy an old muscle car, they're not going to want nothing to do with something driving them and telling them where they go and whatnot. So, at least in my opinion.
No, I hear you, and that's if you listen to the futurists or people like get asked that question, like what's next or whatever, I hear self-driving cars coming up as like, what's the next bubble, or what's the, not the bubble, but what's the next like technology platform or something, like what's the next thing. A lot of people I hear more and more people saying that self-driving cars, and then when they get into that discussion or whatever, they'll mention like, there'll be places where humans go to drive, but in order for all the little stuff, the insurance, and for all those reasons that people are, complaining about whether or not already implemented, like that stuff will be avoided by only cars driving themselves. Once you put a human in there, it gets complicated to the car. So they'll just take humans out at some point. So, once they've established it, they'll just say you can't drive, except for over here.
Yeah, I don't like that. I mean, I'm fine with that, like that Amazon highway on the side. If they want to build a highway, run their trucks there, that's fine. But it shouldn't affect my freedom or what I want to do with my property, in my opinion.
Agree, man.
All right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
What about when they take cars into hover cars or some sort of, air transport? Then they don't need roads anymore. Then there won't be roads, because roads are worth more as other things. Then where will we drive? Like, then there won't be places to drive.
That'll be the next phase, man. I got a feeling that might be down the road.
I don't think I'll be here then. But I don't know. I think it would go like the drones, where, if I look out my upstairs window and see a guy standing there with binoculars, he'd probably get a few shots heading his way. But you'd like to think it'd be almost like be like an air, kind of air traffic, where you'd have your space highways and your back roads or free areas or something. But you'd still think there would be, in the beginning of that, ground vehicles as well. The average person couldn't afford to skip the traffic jams on the way to work. So I don't know. I mean, that's definitely a time thing. How long would it take for the average guy to be able to afford something like that, dude? So who knows?
Yeah, but if you would have asked, well, it depends on who we are, but our grandparents, our great-grandparents probably, what did we think about the Mustang convertible? And they would have laughed at us because everybody was driving around in carriages, horses behind, or horses in front of, I'm trying to say, wagons and shit. So, like, I like to think my grandpa was born in 1918 or 1915. So I think he was born before airplanes existed. And when he died, people were on the moon. So we have the potential to jump a lot of tech. We just don't think about it because we're so used to tech developing, but it's actually developing pretty quick underneath of us. So I could see, some sort of, I don't know, like click, click, and then all of a sudden we're not driving anymore, because of all of a sudden there's hover cars.
Take some time though. I mean, I don't own a plane. I don't know about you, but the average person don't own planes yet. So, but yeah, definitely takes some time. But I get what you mean though. With technology, it keeps advancing at a quicker pace. Some people even question if that's even realistic, how quick it has advanced at some point. But that's a whole nother discussion.
Well, at some point,
I've always wanted one of those.
At some point, technology is going to get so advanced that it's going to stop advancing. There's going to be a period where it's the same for a while and then it advances again. Because it has to. It's how it works. So.
All right, man. Hey, Nice Rick, I think I'm gonna jet here, buddy. You guys gonna keep going?
We're gonna go for another few minutes, but I am gonna make an announcement. From the hours between 2 to 4 a.m. this, I guess this morning or in the evening, whatever. They're going to do maintenance on PSA's website. So if you haven't bought anything yet from PSA, go ahead and do so because they're unveiling their website at 5 a.m. tomorrow. So they're redesigning it. So it'll be down between the hours of 2 to 4. So I just got another email about it today. So
gotcha, man.
I like to buy something from PSA every hour of the day. So I guess what I'll have to do is stock up and buy 2 things for the hours before and then 2 things for the hours after to make up for the hours that I won't be able to buy them.
Yeah, and I'd like to buy things from gearwebsites.com. So, but I don't know if anything will ship. Can you talk to them and see if that'll happen, G-Webs?
What ship ever?
Okay, whose mic is hot? There we go. All right, but make sure that happens, G-Webs. But
keep the 100% shipping ratio up. Okay, easy.
Yeah.
We do.
Keep the shipping up. But we had a couple topics, but I've been trying to fix what's wrong with GunTube, but I'm gonna have to reinstall everything to get it working properly again. So with that, I think we're pretty much done for this evening. I'm sorry, guys. I wanted to run hit or miss like I normally do, and it seems like the forces of nature and causality were all against me. So I did the best I could. I appreciate G-Webs, Travis, New York Outcast, and Duke Liberty for filling in for me while I was trying to fix everything wrong with the world, and unfortunately, I can't fix it right away. So, we're gonna figure this out. But until then, will see.
To the best ever.
But again, we will see you guys next week. So, take it easy. It shall not be infringed. Remember, only you can prevent forest fires. Always keep one in the chamber. We'll see you on the next one. Spay and neuter your pets. Remember, spay and neuter your pets.
Yes.
Be of sound courage. Long live the Republic. And God bless America. And with that,
there you
go. With that, I'm going to end it by saying, on that note, we're done. Stick a fork in her. All right. How do I turn this damn thing off?
The end podcast button on the top right corner.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Hasta la vista.
Adios, Felicia. Adios, Felicia.
Te amo.
There you go. Te quiero, mi amor.
Mi amor.
Yeah.